Greetings. Peace, everybody. Welcome to Community Radio. And I am, of course, Kim, your host. Welcome back again to another live segment. Today is Tuesday. And today, of course, I do have a topic that I kind of prepared before everything started. But if you have anything you would like to discuss, or if maybe you heard something in one of the other shows on enlightenment and transformation that you have a question about or heard Chief say something, feel free to ask, and we can discuss that as well. Or anything you saw in the news, current events, social media, whatever. The number to call is 347-945-7680. And I want to remind you all that starting December 1st, the number will change to 515-605-9862. So make sure you make a note of it. The flyers and things that we have going out advertising the shows will reflect the new number in case you forget. So December 1st, the number changes, okay? And again, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that if you would like to be a part of the Anu movement, you can go to anewlifeglobal.org and sign up. Let us know how you want to contribute. It is a community effort. If you want to be a part of the men's call, I think the first men's call is going to be on Sunday. So make sure you send us your information if you are a male listener and you want to be a part of that call. You can send that again through anewlifeglobal.org, or you can send it to questions@anunation.org, and I can forward it to where it needs to go. So make sure you're on that call on Sunday. The women's group still meets every Monday, and we had a really good session last night. Chief had a special message for us, so thank you, Chief, for that. Really good call. Really good call. Sometimes these calls can go on for quite some time. I think last night it was probably about 3 hours. So we had a really good discussion, really good build. And if you want to be a part of that, make sure, again, you go to anewlifeglobal.org to sign up or send us an email. I also want to remind you of all of the classes that we offer with Sedulu House and spiritual work and consultations. If you would like to get a consultation, you can go to askosiris.com, or you can go to seduluhouse.com. As soon as you go to Sedulu House, there's a pop-up menu that will come up that will take you to the appropriate place to schedule your consultation. If you want classes, the classes are there. Phase 1 training is there. All the classes that I offer on different spiritual practices such as meditation, candle magic, water magic, herbs, alchemy, the third eye, astral travel, oils. There's so many. You can just go to seduluhouse.com, and you can also go to my website, SiriusBitch.com, SiriusBitch.com, and those classes are listed there as well. Also on their website, you'll find some services there. If you need help with finances, money spells, love spells, protection spells, and blockage removal, I do that spiritual work for you. You don't have to do it yourself, because I know everybody's not proficient in it or may not be as confident or in doing ritual work. So that can be done on your behalf. You can find all of the information about those services, again, on my website, SiriusBitch.com. Let's see, what else? All of the social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SiriusBitch, same handle on all those channels. So if you have a question or you want to reach out to me, you can do that through any of those mediums. I do frequently check them. So that's that. Okay, I think I've covered just about everything. There's so much going on. I almost kind of forget sometimes. And we still get those questions of, how do I sign up? How do I join? How do I get a reading? So there's your information. Check seduluhouse.com. Just about all of our websites have that information on there. Okay. So again, today is Tuesday, and I wanted to talk about. I'll go ahead and bring up my topic. Again, if you want to contribute, just press the number 1 if you're on the line, or call in 347-945-7680. But today I kind of wanted to talk about culture and respect. If you saw the meme, it said something like, was it Black people don't deserve respect? And there's a reason why I titled it that way. Recently, as you've heard in some of the previous shows, like a lot of the, comments and things we get under the YouTube videos that are just really out of line and out of pocket. And we also get them on Instagram, and Chief gets them as well. Some people, just are very disrespectful, but I've noticed, and Chief has noticed, that for the most part, these disrespectful comments come from our own ethnic group. They're mostly from Black people, or what we see with our physical eyes, as we would, what we would call Black people. And so it just made me think, what is it about us that makes us feel so comfortable with just approaching any random Black person so disrespectfully? I know in one show I broke down a message that was under one of the YouTube videos where one of the listeners just came out of the bag cursing out another supporter. And just to give you an update, that person did go back and apologize after I talked about it on the show. So they did apologize, but it just speaks to a problem that's much larger. It's like, what is it about us that makes us feel like, that gives us permission and makes us feel okay with just completely disrespecting each other and not showing any etiquette or anything towards each other? And it made me think about the show that I did on, do I secretly hate Black people? And I wanted to kind of go deeper with that show, but we couldn't quite push it there. So I'm going to try to push it there this time. Recently on something Chief posted on Instagram, another Black person, and this was a female again, made some comments to Chief that were just really, really out of pocket. And I think I'm going to go into detail on that on a different channel, probably on my YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, I'll probably upload that in a few days. But she was just really, really out of pocket, and Chief definitely showed her some grace and not, going there with her. He asked her some very direct questions, and of course she took it personally, which is sometimes what we do. A lot of times we're not thinking logically when somebody, when we make just unbased, comments that just come from out of nowhere, no basis in anything. Most of the times it's because it's based on a personal experience that we've had. And so we're kind of emotionally attached to it. And so when someone comes back and asks you a logical question about something that you just said, sometimes they'll answer the question in a rude way because they feel like they're being attacked personally, because their feelings are attached to what they said. It has nothing to do with logic. But one of the point is that we come at each other so disrespectfully on on social media, in person. We just don't give each other that initial respect or etiquette that other groups of people do. And another thing it made me think about is, like, one of the reasons I believe this is because for the most part, a lot of Black people do not have a culture. And when you don't have a culture, you don't have a code, you don't have rules, you don't have anything that kind of keeps you in check. And the reason I say this is because, for the most part, most Black people, I guess, are attached to the exterior, what they see on the outside. Like if they look at you and they see that, oh, this person is different than me, they automatically kind of give you some respect. For example, you wouldn't approach, I guess, like an Amish person or Jewish person just off the bat, just be completely rude and talk to, say, a member of that community the same way you would just a black person that you encounter. I've seen it. Like we make sure we speak clearer. We try to use better English. If they're passing us on the sidewalk, we get out of the way. We open doors. We fall all over ourselves for people that we can outwardly see are doing something different, and it's because that group of people has a code and a type of culture, and that you have to respect that. But for some reason, like with us, if we don't see it externally, and sometimes you can see it externally and they still don't care, but if you don't have on some sort of garb or costume or something, it's like we just, you can just treat a person any kind of way and talk to them any kind of way. Like, for instance, I know that if you see someone that's a member of Nation of Islam, for instance, or Fruits of Islam, you're not just going to walk up on them and talk crazy to them. Like, they initially get that respect. Part of it is because I think that, for the most part, you see that they are a member of something. You see that they are unified in something, and you're familiar with some of the customs of that particular group of people. So you already know not to come to them with any mess. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes we get wrapped up in the exterior. Like we just don't feel like people that don't have culture should be respected. And that's not, like I said, that's not coming from me. That's why I titled the show that, because I know by titling the show that, somebody's going to say, well, how can she say something like that? All people deserve respect. All black people deserve respect. We built this country, yada, yada, yada. But the truth of the matter is that we don't. And I see it every single day. Like I said, just in social media alone, you see that we don't show each other certain courtesies or just, proper etiquette between each other. And again, like I said it's because you have no culture. And we know that a person that has no culture is like a wild card. It's just like, like a wild animal. Like, you don't know what to expect from this person, but you know that they have no boundaries. So you treat them that way. Another way that I've seen this displayed is when you're out, and maybe like if you go to certain areas where the people are a bit different, or you encounter a group of people, like maybe you're shopping or something and they speak another language. Do you ever feel some kind of way, like when they are together, that particular family or two or three people or whatever, and they're talking amongst each other and they're speaking their own language, and then say if you have to talk to them, they kind of stop and then look at you like, okay, what do you want? Now I got to lower myself to speak English to you. Like, you can kind of feel it. I've heard people say, like, when they go in a nail shop and this happens, everybody's speaking their own language. And then it's like when you have to enter into the conversation, it almost feels like they have to take a step down just to talk to you because you're so beneath them. And it's because that group of people have something between them that they all share. They have something between them that kind of connects them and it bonds them and it gives them some sort of code. And that deep down, you don't have that. You know what I mean? So you do feel kind of slighted. You do feel a little, you feel a little funny when you kind of realize these things about yourself. But, again, at the same time, it's like you could have that, but a lot of people choose not to. Even when it comes to something like when we're dealing with Anu and Anu culture, it's like Chief has brought forth the system, and he shares some of the things that we do or don't do, and everything. And then you get people to make comments about it as if it's up for debate, or as if he hasn't thought this completely through, or as if this is not the law, so to speak, with this particular culture. And I don't think people understand that it's not up for debate. He's not asking for your input, as or suggestions, as to say, like, he hasn't figured this out yet, and we need your suggestions and all these other kind of things. It's he's sharing the information with you and inviting you in if you would like to be a part of it, but it's not necessarily something that's up for discussion. So when people just leave comments and say things, like, yeah, I hear you, but, or, yeah, that's true, but, and then interject, is like, who are you? What are you basing this on? Nobody is debating. I'm not debating my culture with you, or I'm not asking for suggestions to improve my culture from you. You have no culture. You have no code. And so it's almost like a slap in the face. And I know maybe some people don't understand that, but it really is. It's disrespectful. So there is a way that you can word it so that you are sharing and not trying to teach the person that created the culture. It's just like, if you met Minister Farrakhan or somebody, you're not going to debate him. You're not. If he tells you something, it's like you're going to take it. You're not going to say, yeah, I hear you, Farrakhan, but you know what? It's like this. Or you're not going to come out and, who you think you're talking to? And, it's like we just have this initial just hate and distrust and spite and everything for each other. And I think that deep down, that is the reason why, because when it comes to other people who have culture and who have a code of conduct and everything else, you automatically respect it. You look at them and you know not to trip. You know what I mean? You know not to say certain things. And so that's why I titled the show what I did. And you can chime in and tell me what you think, but and this is an open invitation to share your thoughts. What do you think? Like I said, I think that one of the reasons why this happens, why the disrespect is there, is because people don't have a culture. And for the most part, I really don't think that most people do want a culture. They want to continue with their own dysfunction. And so the reason why a lot of people don't commit to communities like, Nation of Islam or, whatever the community is because they want to continue the dysfunction that they have. They don't want to have to submit to any type of code or rules or more, they don't want to have to do that. It's just a lot easier to just kind of be on the outside. I'm going to go to a caller real quick. This is 904. Greetings.
Hey, Sister Kim. How you doing?
Peace. I'm well. How are you?
This is Terrain.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? This is Terrain once again. How y'all doing? Peace to our new family that's out there listening. I just wanted to say, chime in and say that I think it started with the Willie Lynch letter.
Okay.
As far as the Willie Lynch was a slave owner, in the West Indies, and the slave owners in America, they sent for him to learn his methods. I'm pretty sure probably everybody knows this, but this is for maybe newcomers who don't know. But he wrote a letter, and he basically taught the slave master how to keep the body of the slave strong and take the mind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Basically take the mind, the culture, and that Willie Lynch chip that we have inside of us is deeply rooted in us. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's hard for us to take it out and wake up, because when we see each other, we basically see each other through the eyes of, white supremacy, meaning,
Right.
they look at us and they look down upon us, and we see ourselves as that. So it's kind of hard. I wonder, how do you tell a nation of people this, and part of their programming is to reject the knowledge that you give.
That's true. Yeah.
To see the knowledge as poison, as evil. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you help a sick culture that rejects the medicine, basically?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's my
That's
thing.
true. That's true. Well, now, okay. Let's say that is absolutely true, and I'm not disagreeing with you on it at all. Now we're in the age of knowing. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is aware of the Willie Lynch thing. Everybody is aware of all the self-hatred. We all know that now. We know the history. We've watched the documentaries. Um, we've done all that, so we're in the know of that. What do you think is the reason now for not, uh, like you said, taking that chip out? Why can't we now do it? We got the information.
Oh well, and coming from my perspective, I believe that the reason why, even though we're in the time of knowing now, you know, why we can't, repent or turn back to or resolute, or I feel like, because for the most part, most people are comfortable. Like, I mean, they're just comfortable finding a little spot on the plantation. I mean, I know
Mm-hmm.
we done heard this plenty of times, and you know, we're beating a dead horse with it, but it's basically that. They think that,
Okay.
white master is gonna take care of me with these, food stamps and all these WIC vouchers and all this,
Mm-hmm.
daycare and everything, but they don't see the end game.
Yeah.
Most people have a short-sighted mind frame. Like, they only living for today.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow,
Well,
we'll
what
live for
about
tomorrow when tomorrow get here.
what about those people who aren't on food stamps and WIC and everything, and they might be making six figures? You know, um, what about those people? They feel like, I'm good.
It's,
What do you
you
mean?
mean six
I'm
figures a
leaving
year?
behind. I'm leaving behind, money for my children. I've, purchased, they have a home to live in. They've left, they've set their family up. What about those people?
Is somebody getting food stamps who make six figures a year?
No, I said, what about people who aren't on food stamps?
Oh, oh. Well, as far as the people who aren't, once again, it just goes back to the Willie Lynch syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
By keeping us divided in our many, like, subtle ways. Putting one put one slave over the other.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be status or whether it be, uh, like the house nigga and the field nigga, so to speak, or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, all that stuff had to do with strategic appliance. Like, they applied that strategy, and they've practiced that strategy for a couple of centuries now. So
Yeah.
it's in us like that. So it's like, it's hard for us to all just come together, put our petty differences to the side and just, come together. It's hard for that to happen when all we've been taught all our lives is to hate our skin, to hate our flesh, and love our enemies.
Yeah, but it's not. I'm not even saying let's come together. You know what I mean? I'm not even saying let's all be, I knew let's all be Nation of Islam, let's all be Hebrew Israelite or whatever. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, what about just having more respect for each other, just showing more courtesy for each other, not cursing somebody out on sight when you encounter them, not even crazy, just being completely disrespectful off the top, you know?
Yeah, I understand completely, man. I wanna do a campaign or some type of thing where I can go into the hood of two rival enemies and see if we can come together and have a sit down and just talk without the emotion being involved. You know what I'm saying? Like just really straight talk things out, but I don't know. I feel like the hatred is too deep for one another.
Yeah.
For us to even, soon as we see each other on sight, we automatically demean and diminish each other psychologically.
Right. Exactly.
Just upon looking at each other.
Yeah.
We don't see each other as sons and, gods and goddesses or queens and kings, or we don't see each other in a, uplifting manner as family. We see each other as different crabs, this is just another crab in the bucket trying to get over. And that's, I don't know how to get that mentality, that sickness out of the mentality of the people. I think you gotta want that though. I think it's nothing that anybody can do. It has to start on the inside, because that's where it is. It's on the inside. The problem is on the inside. It's in us.
Definitely. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you, Tareem. If you want, just mute your line, and whenever you want to come back, you can come back. I'm gonna go to 269. Thank you for your comment. 269.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Greetings.
I'm calling from greetings to you too, sis. Calling from Michigan.
Okay.
It's a pretty interesting topic. I tend to agree with you with the statement you made on I think it's on your face page. If you don't have a culture, you really don't deserve respect. But I'll take a little bit of a different view for the brother who was speaking. The respect that we're talking about is related to politics. Meaning,
how so?
Yeah, meaning when you talk about the social relations, particularly the relationship that Africans have with Europeans within this culture. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
No,
that's
I'm talking about black people with black people.
Okay, well, when you certainly can't start there because you don't have a culture, so you certainly can't talk about interracial unity without a culture. So, because you don't...
Go ahead and make it. Go ahead and say what you're going to say. But I want to add something to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, because when you mentioned about a code, so you have groups like you said, the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelites. So within those particular groups, each of them may have some guiding principles that they use to deal with one another. But let's if you use the example of Europeans, do you believe that the Europeans have a functional culture? Do you believe that they respect each other? And if so, how? Then you can double back and say how blacks are not. Because whatever you are defining respect as, and if you're saying that you see that definition prevalent in Europeans, and if I ask you to give me examples of where you see them respecting each other, we will be able to see the same thing in certain places within black folk. See, so we got to be clear on what do you mean respect for each other.
Okay, when I say Yes. Let me be clear. I'm speaking about respect amongst Black people. I'm not comparing us to Europeans at all, or even speaking about their culture or various cultures within their group. I'm just saying, like, I've noticed that on a lot of these videos when we present certain certain things, that we get a lot of disrespectful comments, and sometimes the comments are towards each other, and they're always between Black people. Like, one of the examples I used is a caller that, as a listener that just kind of went off on one of the callers that called into the show. They didn't say it to them, to their, on the actual show, but after the show was released on YouTube, she came out. She just cursed him out. She just cursed the man out. Called him names and everything. You don't even know this man, and so I find it interesting that Black people are so comfortable with treating each other like that. Like, initially, just at the first meeting, at first sight, we find we're very comfortable with challenging each other, with disrespecting each other, with just not having any type of etiquette or manners or anything at all. And the only reason I brought up culture is because, for the most part, when Black people see other people that do have culture, they give them that respect. But just
you're making my point, sis. I mean, you're basically making my point. In other words, I agree. So what you have is because you don't have a culture. That
right.
means at an early age, which when we talk about culture, let me be specific to a piece of culture that helps in the African to African relationship. For instance, education. All right, education. Because you don't have a school system where you teach your children what it means to have respect for one another, what it means to be a young man, what it means to be a young lady. This is institutions, and this is why I disagree with the brother. Individuals are not necessarily born with the trait of respect. That is a cultural concept that is taught. And if you don't have a culture, and we can be specific now when we say culture, we're talking about institutions that shape the personality and the character of individuals. All right. So we clear we don't have that. There's no disagreement there. So now let's go to, that's why I said let's juxtapose that against the European culture in which we live, where even with their institutions, the thing that you described that you saw two Africans doing, you'll see two Europeans do it as well. You'll see two Europeans go at each other's throat, right? So again,
go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I just want to build with you.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, even, of course, they are a warring people, no doubt about it. Like, they're always at war with each other. But I'm talking about even just on a smaller level. Like, with all the comments and things that we get on the videos, because Anu is a culture. And, Chief Yuya, these shows and things are, when he does his segments and everything, it's about him presenting some of the things, some of the codes and things that are within that culture. And instantly, Black people just attack. They don't ask questions. They don't say, well, how did you come up with that? Or how did you, you know what I mean? There are certain ways you can ask a question. Now, I've never seen, unless these people are hiding behind, avatars or fake avatars or whatever, or even called into the show, certain groups of people will not approach you that way. I haven't seen any Hispanic people to just fly off the handle like that at Chief or at any of the shows we've done. I haven't seen white people do it. I haven't seen, I haven't seen Asian people do it. I haven't seen any particular group or person of a certain ethnic group just come out of the gate cursing somebody out or just challenging you in a really disrespectful way. And that's all I'm saying. It's always Black people. And I'm just like, what is that about? I really think it is a form of self-hatred. But it's like, what is it in you that makes you feel so comfortable and so validated in doing that to another member of the same ethnic group? Because I know that other groups argue and that they may disagree, but especially in a public forum, it's done in a more respectful manner. Just like you'll see Black people arguing just out in public. You know, if you're in a relationship or something like that, like sometimes you'll see a Black woman just fly off the handle and just throw stuff, yell, scream, curse the person out, whatever. Like, or even, you know, in the classroom, I used to be a teacher. Like, a lot of times the kids, if it's they'll just fly off the handle. He was looking at me. You know, they're ready to fight. They're quiet, doing their doing their assignments or whatever. All of a sudden, one kid may be daydreaming or something. Next person looks up, and next thing you know, they're cursing each other out about to fight. What's the problem? Well, they were looking at me. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah.
What is that?
Well, but I think, sis, if the objective of you asking the question is to see if it's possible to get at the root of that from a masses perspective, or so to speak, to make it, you know, unnatural to do those types of things. I think if you don't go into the thought about institution building, where are your institutions connected together? For instance, you mentioned a culture that you have. Mm-hmm. Now, so you have like the Nation of Islam. But just this universal, how would you say, social system that you bring African children up through, even if they subscribe to a different methodology at some point, but there's no rites of passage like the Boy Scouts, right? Mm-hmm. This is one of the socializing institutions for European boys. Make no mistake about it. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, all white boys don't go through the Boy Scouts, but it's those types of organizations and similar organizations that if you were to look at the structure of European culture and white males who are controlling it, they'll have something in common. They'll all have been through things like the Boy Scouts, fraternities, and things of that nature, and they're attached to those type of universal groups. That's what holds the culture together. So, Again, you're back to, you don't have that in the African community, this universal type rites of passage, okay? Well, then you'd have to show me where it's at.
I think we do because, first of all, like I was saying to Tareen, like we are in the age now where we know all the history, we know all the problems, and we have the resources to fix it. Like now you can homeschool your children. You can join.
Well, I agree with that.
You can create.
But
you can create or join. You can create or join your own culture. You can start your own culture. You know what I mean? And part of what we're doing is sharing that culture with other people and saying, hey, this is what we do. This is who we are. If you want to join, join. But you've got so many people, like I said, that don't want to do that because when you become a part of a culture, there are rules, there are codes, there are things that aren't permitted. And then you have those people that kind of stay on the outside because they're like, you know what? Well, I can't, you trying to tell me I can't just have sex with anybody I want to all the time, or I can't get high and kick it and whatever it is, you know, whatever dysfunction it is that you have. I can't do that inside of your culture. Okay, so nah, that's not for me. So we jump from Christianity to Islam to this to that to, you know, whatever, trying to find a place where we fit in but not necessarily a place where we fit in, but a place that will accept our dysfunction on top of that.
Okay.
So I don't think it's that we don't have it. I just think that, people don't want it.
Okay, well, let's go there.
Okay.
So since you've drawn the conclusion that we don't want it, what's next?
Well, for my culture, for me and my culture, it's like I stay away from people like that. I don't outwardly.
I'm saying that's the easy way, and I'm saying. Yeah, and I'm saying that's what we're doing. We like to take the easy way out, and I'm not talking about you in specific, but here's what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't have that universal socialization organization that gives African boys and African girls the fundamentals. We're not talking about as we get on up into adults. Now we're trying to change all these bad habits, smoking dope, like I said, being promiscuous, running around from religion. We're talking about some that so you don't, if you have 80% having those dysfunctions, where are your institutions at the younger level so you can change those numbers to where you say people don't want it? How do you make it warrantable at a younger age? I'm saying that's where your institutions come in at.
Well, this is a Christian country, correct? And
yes.
For the most part, when you go to church, those are some of the things that are in place. Like, religion is supposed to civilize you. The things that I'm speaking of just comes from just basic just being civilized. And so for the most part, when you are in church and you got Sunday school, Bible school, all these things, these are like lessons that you're supposed to learn when you're a child.
Now you just talked about history. And we know for a fact religion is the most non-moral, non-civilizing institution in America. So. Now we can prove it. Well, we can prove it.
Okay, go ahead. Let me hear what you have.
Well, if you say 70% of, we're just talking now, if you want to call all of us Americans, attend some type of religious, are attached to some type of religious organization. Mm-hmm. All wars, religion-based. Mm-hmm. The concept of sexuality from a European perspective, it comes out of their religion. Like they don't believe anything is wrong with homosexuality. That comes out of their religion. So, I mean, I don't think that religion has been this moralizing compass for people in America. That's just not, certainly, I mean, I don't know how we can prove that.
Well, I'll tell you how, because I know Chief, used to be an active participant in church. I was not brought up in church, but the only reason why is because I'll say my parents did not force me to go, but I was always curious about it. So I've studied a lot of different religions. And so I have read the Bible, and for the most part, there are codes and things in that Bible that I feel like pretty much all people should have. There are certain things in there, I don't see anything that is wrong with it. It teaches you how to treat people, how to be respectful of each other. It gives you a basic moral compass. And for the most part, all religions pretty much do that. Like I said, religion civilizes you. It gives you something to start out with. It tells you you don't do this, this is what you do. You don't do that, you don't curse, you don't do this, you don't treat people this way, you don't do that. So it gives you those basics. Now, when you get into the politics of religion, that's a completely different conversation. But for the most part, it does civilize you. And I feel like even in this country, a lot of people, this is a Christian country, you have people who skipped a lot of that in their Christianity practice because they didn't practice Christianity as a true Christian. you got Christians that, pretty much just pick and choose what they want to do, which is what I'm talking about. This is the problem, is that when people do choose a culture, they try to find something that will allow them to continue with their dysfunction. They're not really going to follow it and practice it as it should be. And that's what you're saying. That's when you have all these different interpretations, people doing what they want to do. Well, yeah, I'm a Christian, but you know what? I'm still going to be promiscuous. Yeah, I'm a Christian, but I'm still going to drink alcohol. Yeah, I'm a Christian, but. Yeah, I'm a Muslim, but. Yeah, I'm a this, but. And that's kind of what I'm speaking of. It's like we miss the basics, and we like to jump off straight into the politics of it. Well, Christianity was bad because, it did this for, it justified slavery. It did this, it killed a lot of people. That's true. But we're talking about the politics of it, and we're getting to a higher level. Most people don't even practice it at the basic level. And I think that's a huge problem. And like I said, then you grow up to be adults who treat people like some of the behavior that I've just been speaking of. And like recently we've been just talking about relationships and just how men and women treat each other in relationships, specifically Black relationships. And how now, like, a lot of people how we're just kind of fed up with each other just because, for several reasons, and we've discussed them, but we're just really fed up with each other. And now we're going outside of our culture or outside of our race because we can't even deal with each other. And so there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I think that and I'll let you. This will be my last statement. I'll let you go ahead. But let me say this: when you give the examples of disrespect, I think that's where we can better have a clear path of what specifically or potentially is missing within the social dynamic. So here again, I'm going to give you another example. You just talked about now male-female relationships. Well, we know probably the number one problem as it relates to that is being able to communicate well. Now, the Bible does not teach you how to communicate well within a particular social dynamic. It may say communicate well, but that's not, you got to be taught how to communicate well. Do you know how to listen? How to understand what someone is saying? The Bible doesn't do that. You see what I'm saying? So
I think that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so if you're talking about economics, that's political, that's culture. The Bible doesn't specifically say how do you organize people with differing egos, but yet you still need to organize your money together. The Bible doesn't tell you how to do that. The Quran doesn't tell you. See, these are things that you have. Okay, all right.
I think it does.
I'll let you go. All right.
Go ahead.
Thanks for letting me talk.
I don't mean to...
Thanks for letting me talk. Okay, I'll go on mute. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Tareem, with what you were saying.
No, I was, well, you were saying that you think it does, like, in some instances. How do you think it teaches that, Sister Gil?
Well, first of all, the book is a conglomerate of stories about different groups of people.
Right.
All kind of coming together under this one umbrella of Christ. And how they interact with each other, the problems that they have, how they overcome those problems, each individual's experience in trying to overcome their own personal problems to get right so-called under Christ or whatever. It talks about, different struggles of different individuals, different struggles of groups of people, going through the wilderness and the problems they had and how they handled it when they came out on the other side. What did they do in the midst of it? How was it handled? Who was the leader? What did they do?
But
so I think
those things in the Bible that you speak of, Sister Kim, they're talking about how those things got done through the acts of God, though. Like, we have to take.
Like, what do you mean when you say acts of God?
Okay, you said with the group. with the group of people, you know, how they came through and overcome. Let's take, for instance, Moses. He was the leader who brought the group of people out of Egypt, you know, and everything. But that was done through God commanding Moses to put your stick in this water and it'll turn to blood. Or, you know, put your stick in this ocean and he divided the sea, and that's how they got through. And, you know,
do you not think that God has sent certain people here for us to do the same thing? Do you not think a godly act was done when Malcolm X had his vision or his inspiration to do the things that he did despite knowing what he was up against? Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, all these people. Those are divine acts.
Those are divine acts. I understand that, but I think it's more because it's like you actually seen divine acts, I guess, in the Bible. Like you
nobody saw it.
So you mean to tell me that nobody's seen the rivers run full of blood,
those are actually
nobody's seen nobody? That's what I'm saying. Like, those are the different.
But you got real life, and so that's even more incentive to because you just read about those stories, but you have had real life in the flesh people here in this lifetime to make certain sacrifices and to do certain things to uplift and to help people. You got people like Shahrazad Ali, Dr. Africa. I mean, Dr. Ben. You know, you got it's an endless list of people who are acting on divine inspiration or acting on the fact that they feel like they have a purpose that they're sent here to do, and it's involving your group of people, so I got to do it. So
I understand.
You know.
No, I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying, Sister Kim. But I think he was saying that I guess it's not, the Bible is not a how-to book to sustain your community. It says, like, for instance, the people of Israel, they wandered around in the wilderness for 40 years. But it don't say how they stayed together, and you know what I'm saying? It don't give specific, you know, instructions on how their culture was during those 40 years. Like in the Bible, yes, ma'am.
Are you sure?
It does.
I've read it. I've read certain parts of the Bible, and it is very clear about the culture. The first few books of the Bible is nothing but lineage.
You're talking about as far as like Moses when he was writing down all the things in Exodus, as far as like all the rules that God gave him.
Rules.
As far as,
you got rules like the commandments and things, but the whole book is about culture. It starts off talking about lineages and bloodlines.
Okay. Well, I mean, I believe, you know, it's just some vague stuff, you know, in the Bible. Like it tells you, for instance, you know, like we was talking about yesterday, or not yesterday, last strong, when we was talking about when the Bible say, husbands, you know, love your wives.
Yeah.
Wives, women, respect your husband. But it don't give you a how-to respect your husband.
But
like,
are there examples of couples in the Bible?
There are examples of couples in the Bible, yes, ma'am. But
the stories that they give you, do they show you how they succeeded and how they failed?
It does say that, but it don't say how the woman gave respect to her man, or how exactly did, you know. I mean, no, I don't think so.
So you need specific baby steps on how to do it. Like if I told you a story about a couple,
for the most part,
you can't see the respect, or you can't see how respect is played out or how love is played out. If somebody gives you a story and tells you that this was a successful relationship, this is a good one, this is a model, you can't. You still need like step one. Say these exact words.
For the most part, for our community, I believe yes, we need that. I mean, me now, I can understand where you're coming from. I can see it, but for the most part, we're at the baby steps with the whole, as far as the whole community is concerned.
That's what you got Sunday school for. That was the lessons you should have got in Sunday school.
You should have, but everybody was playing around and you know what I'm saying, trying to flirt with the other little girl, and it wasn't intriguing to us like that, in Sunday school. And you're right, you are right, you right about it, and it's just people, we've lost that. You know what I'm saying? And I think, black people, we resonate with the Bible so much because it is out of African text. So to a certain degree, it is African. You know what I'm saying? It's just been plagiarized and remixed and all this other stuff to it. So now that's what's got us, in a disarray. And it's so hard. It's so hard to throw away a belief that your family, your bloodline has been believing in for generations.
That's my point. I don't think they've been believing in it. If they were truly a part of that culture of Christianity, because it is a culture. Islam is a culture. Christianity is a culture. Judaism is a culture. I think if they were truly a part of that culture, it would be demonstrated. And my point is what I'm saying is that we dip in and dip out of cultures because we don't want to behave. We don't want rules. We don't want codes of conduct. We don't want that kind of solidarity. Yet we respect it when we see it in each other. I mean, when we see it outside of ourselves, excuse me. But for some reason, you don't want a lot of black people don't want it for themselves and for their own children.
You're right. And again, I feel like, and maybe one of y'all, Chief, could correct me. I feel like it goes back to the Willie Lynch. The Willie Lynch letter.
Like
the Willie
Lynch we can syndrome. Back to it, but I don't think we can really use that as an excuse now because we have so much access to other cultures and information now. I'm going to go to a really quick to ring. Just hang on, like this is L4. Greetings.
Hello.
Peace.
Greetings.
How are you?
Peace. Am I on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was just trying to follow the conversation. I kind of chimed in late, so I wanted to know, what the topic was specifically.
We were just talking about how black people just initially show the least amount of respect and courtesy and etiquette towards each other. Yet we we show the utmost respect and everything for everyone else that we see that has some sort of culture. When you see them, you know that they represent a certain group of people or a certain culture, and so you automatically give them that respect. But we don't do it with each other. We speak to each other horribly, even if we're total strangers. Initially, we'll just, meet somebody, you'll just curse them out. And I've given examples of how that has been done, like to some of the comments that people leave under these videos, some of the people that have left comments for Chief, just come off wrong initially. And so I was just asking, what is it about some black people that just makes them feel like this is okay? And if you can have that respect for people of other cultures, why is it that you don't want that for yourself or for your own children? Well, I know why, but I'm just kind of, asking the listening audience to kind of chime in on that and to see if you notice the same thing.
I've noticed it. I would say I think the major reason for it, and at least in my opinion, my humble opinion, is that black people in general really don't have. I think it goes back to language. Put it that way, where sometimes we have these colloquialisms. I'm gonna give you an example. Like we'll say things like praise and worship, right? And so the word worship will have this meaning that no one really understands in terms of its origins, etymologically.
Or breaking up a little bit.
I'm breaking up. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, it's breaking up just a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're saying
but I was saying it goes back to language, and an example of it would be I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about ancestor worship, and so he had a real large problem, a big problem with using the word worship. And I was like, why? I said, what does worship mean? She said, well, I know what it means to me. And just to make a long story short, we don't have to go into what it actually means or anything like that. What it actually means is just value. To give something value. It's like worthiness.
It means what now?
Right. Or to assign value to something. And it's almost like with the Bible. I've known very few people, if any, who have actually translated the Bible from Hebrew or Aramaic or anything like that into English or into another language, who've gotten into it that deep in order to really understand what it's actually saying. So when somebody calls your show and says, I'm sorry.
What was the definition you gave again? I'm sorry, because I don't know if it was on my end or Blog Talk's end. It was breaking up for me.
It broke up. What did you say again? What?
You said worship meant what now?
Worship meant to assign value to something.
To assign value?
Value.
Is that what you said?
Value. V-A-L-U-E.
I'm sorry.
Am I still breaking up?
Okay, maybe it's... Yeah, I don't know if it may be me. It may be me. Okay, you said worship is to assign value.
To assign value, yes. V-A-L-U-E.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Okay, I understand it a different way, but yeah, go ahead and go with what you were saying.
Well, okay, well, what I was saying, I don't know how far I got along, but what I was saying to her is that a lot of times people don't look into what it is that they're actually saying, and so they can't be in agreement. And so a lot of times I would say within the African American or black community or African community, because we've been given so many terms or we've been given languages and other things or religions, and we haven't done our due research on what we've been given and what we now are using, or the implements that we've been given. We haven't done any research on it. We don't understand what it is that we actually have. We're going around sort of like speaking in a language that we think we understand or that we think we're all in agreement on, but we're not. Am I still breaking up?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. And so I think that's where the lack, when you see those other people and they say, look, this is this in my culture, whether I'm a Muslim or whether I'm a Jew or Christian or Catholic, whatever, this is how we get down, this is how we operate and move. You respect that right away because there's an agreement between the collective, whereas it appears that we agree as a people, but we don't really agree. We're not really in agreement with what it is what we're saying because we're actually operating off of how we think it actually is for us as individuals. If that makes any sense. Okay,
so if let's say one of these people that, like I said, have just cursed somebody out just upon initial meeting or just in a really funky way. If they pass a Hasidic Jew, for example, and maybe that person stopped to ask them a question, I don't see those same type of people going off or cursing them out or anything. I find them straightening up, being more clear in their communication, and getting in and jumping in line really quick.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. They don't know. I don't speak Yiddish or understand half the things that, you know, or understand how they define things within their culture. But those very same people that will disrespect you in their own group, in their own ethnic group, will straighten up when they're dealing with other people. Well, so I'm not really talking about anything that's super, super deep, you know, as far as, you know, trying to understand our language. I understand that all of that is a part of it, but we're just talking about just general behavior, just basic etiquette, basic common decency, basic respect, things we should have learned as children.
Right. No. When I speak a language, I just mean like there's a medium with where in which we can kind of come to an agreement, where we understand who's in front of us, where we can acknowledge each other or acknowledge what one another is about. And I think when they see a Muslim, they're able to draw that distinction and say, hey, this person, like, even if they're completely wrong, that language that person speaks based on how they dress and what they say they are, who they say that they are, is so everybody's in agreement with what they say that they are, who they say that they are. There's certain expectations that come along with that. Whereas I don't think black people have that that sort of like that level of communication where we actually understand not only what we're saying, but who we actually are or who's in front of us. So it's hard to give respect to someone or something. Hello?
I'm sorry.
Is that me?
Yeah, there's some really bad. Okay. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Can you repeat what? I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the last?
It's okay.
Last thing?
Don't panic. Take your time.
Go ahead with what you were saying. You were basically saying that language kind of gives us something, a common language to where we kind of understand certain norms amongst each other. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And a part of language is not just the words that we speak, but it could be standards, it could be laws that we have in place, where people have certain, they know how to move and they know how to operate. There's certain signposts that exist just in how you dress.
Okay, I'm still getting a really bad connection. Like I said, I don't know if that's on my end or yours. But I'm gonna come back to you. Can you mute your line just for a minute? And whenever you get ready to come back in, maybe if you're in a better spot, you can come back in. I'm gonna go to another caller.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to elaborate on what you said, and I'm pretty sure some more people will comment on, will chime in. Thank you for your comment. Okay. I'm gonna go to a Skype caller now. I think this is Brother Byron. Greetings.
Peace, Tim.
Peace.
Peace. How are you doing? Sister Kim, can you hear me?
Okay, I think this is maybe my end. Can you, okay, go ahead, Byron. I think it's my end that's breaking up.
Sister Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Go ahead,
can you
Byron,
hear me?
I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah, how are you? How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
Not most things are okay. Not all things, but most things.
Oh,
so
no.
I've got life, so I'm not complaining. I'm not going to complain too much.
Okay.
I'm not going to complain too much.
That's unusual thing from you, Brother Byron.
Well, it's good to be honest. It's good to be honest. Yeah, I'm listening to the show, though. I'm listening to the show, and I would say, and it's a really good conversation, and all the brothers that have contributed have really taken a lot from what they've said. But on the topic itself, I mean, I run a social media site professionally for my work, as part of my work. And within that, I get slick comments from white people, black people, Asian people, because I feel that it's a worldwide phenomenon of hiding behind a handle on the internet and criticizing.
Right.
However, if I'm specifically looking at the African or the African American or the Black community, I would firstly say that within the communities that are based in the West, there is very limited or no social order or protocols.
Right.
Hence, we communicate with each other as we feel to, as we choose to, based on our mood, based on what's been happening with us. Then we will just reflect that into how we communicate with each other, rather than having the self-discipline of putting our own feelings to one side and communicating in appropriate terms to whomever we're speaking to. And so for me, there's been a really gross assimilation of what I would call the common codes of behavior. So, and within the common code, I would say the Western codes of behavior. And we assimilate and take on these behaviors with little or no thought or reflection. Mm-hmm. And because we are unable to reflect, we tend to do, whether physically or figuratively, we do a great deal of finger pointing. I have learned to understand that when you point the finger at somebody, they're still pointing right back at you. But we don't apply that knowledge to how we behave. And therefore, we will then finger point and challenge in very disrespectful tones, because we are safe in the knowledge that we are hiding behind a PC or a laptop or a tablet, and nobody can challenge us appropriate or in the way that sometimes we need to be challenged. And so therefore, and within all of that, we've also assimilated the aspects, as the brother was saying, of white supremacy, wherein black people are considered less than. And so because we've got that within our DNA, and we've not tried to change that in any way, then we just practice that in our daily lives. And so for me, one of the key things is there's no community. Yes, black people might live together in certain districts. We might know each other. Well, rather than say no, I would say I'd rather use the term acquaintance, because when we understand that getting to know somebody or having a relationship with somebody, it takes effort. But in this world of everything being instant and at our fingertips, we're more accustomed to making acquaintances and trying to understand what can we get from that person to benefit us on what we want to do as individuals, rather than developing a relationship where there is a requirement on both parties to give to the other person. And for me, that really sets all of the backdrop as to why African people have taken on this disrespectful tone when communicating on social media, is because, number one, we've got no training, and therefore are unable to say, well, this behavior isn't akin to what I've been taught, isn't akin to the culture I've been brought up in, isn't akin to what my peers or my parents do, or what my parents raised me or my peers do. And therefore, we just do any foolishness, and we accept any foolishness that is presented to us, and hence the problem. And also, I did also want to add that I think it's really big of the sister to apologise to Brother Anwar. And I just want to say respect to the sister for doing so.
Yeah, she did go back and apologize. So I must say that. Well, thank you, Byron. One of the things that a lot of people have said is that, because of, white supremacy, racism, we have, that programming, and we have those issues. But, I think now we're just we're in a position now where we have more information and we have more knowledge than what we were operating with before. And I feel like we are in a position now to where we can be better, at least amongst each other. You know what I mean? Even if you're not a part of a very strict culture. Like I said, if you, there are just some basic things about how to speak to people or how to treat people or what to say, what not to say. I do understand the whole social media, aspect, but then you encounter this just in passing someone on the street, or, when you're shopping or something, you encounter some of the same, disrespect. And I just think we're in a position now where I can pick and choose a culture. All the information is out there about whatever culture it is I'm choosing. I know the last caller mentioned language. Now I can learn any language. I can learn any language I want. And language is a byproduct of the culture, of course. So, again, it's like I think we have the luxury now of choosing a culture, choosing a language if we want to, I think we have all of those luxuries. I just think that, I don't know, maybe it's just some people, like I said, a lot of people are just a lot more comfortable in their own little bubble or own dysfunction,
I think that is the case, and often because our egos are so big, we will only deal with people who are on our level, who we know are not going to challenge us, because everything's at our fingertips now. But also, I think a big part of the problem for me is sometimes we often blame young people and children for much, and they are responsible for much. But also, I would like to speak to the adults,
right?
Those in their 30s, 40s, 50s. When I was growing up, I could distinguish an elder or adult from a younger adult simply by the clothes that they wore, or their hairstyle, or the way they spoke. Now, it's very difficult to differentiate between a 50-year-old man and a 20-year-old man unless they take the hat off and you can see his bald head.
That's true.
We dress the same.
Yeah.
We talk the same. We go to the same places. So there's no social differential in our behaviors, but we have different ages and different experiences. But we're we're the same group, moving in the same circles, with no differential between the middle-aged to the young adults. And I think for me, the middle-aged adults have to really take responsibility and accept their position in the proper order of things, and start to say, well, when you reach to certain ages, there's different expectations on you, and set examples to younger people who will then know, well, I don't speak to older people. And when I'm saying older people, I'm saying people 35, 40 in a particular way, because they've had more experience than me, and they're doing things that are different to what I am, because they've progressed through a certain age range, and now we're doing different things, Sister Kim. So sometimes, I can't, if I'm behaving as a 20-year-old, I can't expect a 20-year-old to relate to me any differently. So I think also there's a responsibility on the middle-aged adults to be just that.
That's true.
I don't know
totally
what you think. What do you think, Kim?
Totally agree. So, I mean, I just, when there's a comment, like I said, on Chief, under something Chief posted on Instagram, I think it was the last post he made, where a woman was just really, really, really rude. And I honestly, and I think this is an older woman. I don't think she was that young. But, when I say, I'm saying like maybe at least 24 or older.
So that's a child to Chief.
Yeah, but I think some of the things that she said, Chief made a statement, and she came back and she expressed her feelings about it, and then Chief asked her a question about her statement. And so when he asked her a question about her statement, I think she took it as an attack on her personally, because as she stated in her comment, this is how she feels. It wasn't based on any facts or based on any culture or based on anything. And so when he asked her to kind of clarify what she was saying, or telling her that this is are you trying to teach me? Are you speaking from experience? Are you just making a comment? What is it? Because you said that this is what you feel. And he was stating that the things that he says and the things that he posts are not based on his feelings or something that he's trying out. Like, this is what this is, and this is what this culture is. And so by him saying that, she just kind of got really, really rude. She got really rude with him. And at every instance when he tried to show her some grace and explain, it made her even ruder. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just thought, I was like, what is this about? You know, why is it that we can't just be nice? I don't even want to just make it that basic to just be nice.
Why
but
can't we be nice and polite?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
I
almost
think,
like,
you know what?
Uh-huh.
From what you described, she was polite until she got checked. And then when Chief checked her, that's when the ego starts to kick off now.
Right.
And she didn't say, how dare you check me, or how dare you speak to me like that, but she may as well
have
done
did say that.
based on what you're saying.
She did. Yeah,
because
she did say that. Who do you think you are?
Right, okay.
You're not speaking to me this way. She did say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that goes to my point that I made before, whereby people only want to associate themselves with people who are not going to challenge them in any way. You know, and because everything is at the fingertips, they can select from a very broad pool of people as to who they want to associate themselves with. And if their ego is in a position where it's telling them, I can't be checked, I can't be challenged, I can't be asked to explain or clarify any point that I make, then that type of personality is going to get agitated when they experience that. And that's what seems to have happened in what you're describing.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that's exactly what it was. It's like, in this culture, like you said, or you were explaining about social media and everything, everybody's kind of used to just throwing things out there in the atmosphere, no matter how ridiculous they may be, and no one having to come back and say, wait a minute, this is off, or this doesn't sound right, or where did you come up with this, or, this is wrong. We're just kind of in an age where everybody's right. Everybody gets a trophy. You get something just, like there's nothing wrong with anybody.
Yes. And because we put a comment on the internet, we feel it should have a level of status that it may not value, or it may or it shouldn't attract. An example, I could give you a brief example. We did something in work the other day where we posted a long press release with links to several documents within that press release. And then we got one, obviously somebody skim read the article and made a slick comment at the bottom. And so I asked them, had they made the comment after they clicked into the links and read the other documents to get a fuller understanding of what the article was about. And to this point, I've not had any response, and I probably won't get a response.
Right.
But you could see that person had just skim read, they're on a PC or a laptop, what have you, sent off a slick comment, and away to go on to the next page where they want to probably possibly do the same thing. So I don't know. Whilst I'm doing it, I'm utilizing some, I don't know, psychology or something. I'm understanding people. I can see people's personality behind a few sentences now, just on the way they approach their approach to commenting.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring in, I think this is Anwar. You can, if you want to continue to comment, Byron, that's perfectly fine, or you can mute your mic.
Okay, I'm going to mute my mic for sure for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Yes.
813.
Greetings. Greetings. How you guys doing, man? Peace to you guys. Sounds like everybody's on it. Sounds like everybody's doing good here. How's peace, brother? How you doing?
All right. Peace out, Brother Tareen. Peace out, Brother Byron. Peace out, Kim. How you doing?
Your number again, man.
I'm sorry. We'll get it situated.
Go ahead and take a break. All right. All right. Go ahead.
All right. But I agree with most of the commentary, especially with Brother Byron and the things that he said. One thing I will tell you is that we've mentioned a lot of causes and effects, and some of the solutions, and one of the main solutions, one of the ones I think I'll stand by, well, I know I'll stand by, is actually not having a real male leadership inside the household. And the reason why I say that is because if in my culture, if you go against your parents, or even go to the point where you say something wrong to your grandmother, you are going to get penalized, like straight penalized. And it won't come from the elders around you, but once your father has been told that this is what you did, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. Or the uncle, or the male figure in the household. You know, I remember a time when I did that when I was young, like 13, and me and my mom got into it. You know what I'm saying? And my uncle came all the way from his house to come over here and straighten my ass up. So, that's one of the solutions that we need to work on, and I really believe in that, is that the male figure needs to be dominant inside that household. You know.
But you know
another
what?
thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that male figure, though, is given the respect and the power he has through the culture, because, like you said, even with everything you said the culture I'm from first before you talked about the male presence within it. So you talk about having a common culture. So your mother knew, like, if I called his man, like, now things are going to get straightened out because my son knows that within this culture, this is how we do it. So, the commonality, again, is culture.
Correct. And, and I think that's one of the causes of the reason why people are behaving the way we are, because a lot of the stuff dealing in America has we don't have a solid culture. We have this melting pot of cultures where let's say in white America, it's okay for the son or the daughter to be sitting there cussing around his mother and just cussing with or cussing at his mother. And that's not, and we can't, like I said, I can't do that at my house. You know, my mom might say something, but I'm not going to sit there and join her in and join in with her when she's cussing. There's certain attributes of the cultures that are blending, and then you get like a male chauvinist, I think that's the word, a male-orientated household that degrades everything inside of it, and that's another thing here with what we would call the masculine feature here in America, and I think that's another issue. Just to dive deeper in that and show you an example of that is that when we're having like let me say, like, just this whole thing with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like the best example of what I'm talking about with male chauvinism. White male chauvinism right now. That's think about that in a household with 7, 8 kids and one wife, and that kind of concept, and him going around talking about grabbing him into what? You know what I'm saying? So think about that concept. And see, for me, and going in respect to the upbringing that I had, is that when I read books like the 14 Keys, which is awesome with building a foundation, and I even put a book review on that, and that's what the first line read was, that this is a foundation building book for a nation, and that's exactly, even with me, I'm extend the Kwanzaa rituals, and I'm going to start 7 days early and start with the basic principles of Mahat. And so my thing is that these principles, the principles of Mahat and the Nguzo Saba, these principles are very easily adapted to me because of the culture I was born in. Now, for people that haven't had, for the people that don't understand, haven't even experienced that one or two of the principles of the principles of Ma'at, or one or two of the principles of the Nguzo Saba, Nguzo Saba. But for people that haven't really experienced it yet, the only way they're going to get themselves together is when they actually start experiencing it and have the people check them, like Chief did that lady, about the respect and the way we need to have those building blocks already there before we even start talking about nation building or community building or family building. So, and just to address that stuff with Lola, and I have a lot of love for Lola. I do. She opened up a whole can of things that helped a lot of people, and I've seen her apology, and it was the hardest part. And the hardest part for me was to come back and respond to it. I was like, I don't know whether I should come back and say thank you. And my thanks is given. Don't get me wrong, my thanks is given. But then she grew from this. She grew from it as much as I grew from it. So we had an exchange that corrected some of our actions, and some of our perspectives and our perspectives. So I think the biggest thing that we need to start working on is just basic morality. And going back to what Chief was talking about with ethos, because for some reason, when I was building, redoing the thing, I stumbled upon that video. And I'm telling you, these videos in the archives are tools. And if people can, if you're paying attention and you have some questions, I'm telling you, just dig into that archive. And I bet money, there's a video there that's going to help you answer or get to the point where you need to be. So, but I was listening to Ethos. I think what was I forgot what the show was called. It was
Ethos. I actually recently posted that on my page.
Right. That's how I started. It was through Vimeo, and I was listening to it, and Chief was really saying we got to really think about what we're saying and the ethics. Ethos is speaking about ethics. Your ethos is ethnic cultures. Your ethnic cultures, the things that we have experienced in life and where we're going. So, it's building that ethos, building that ethical, moral obligations that we should have just as babies going all the way out to adults. And I think that's one of the things, and just to conclude what I'm saying, is that's the biggest problem here in America, is that we have a blend of cultures which none of the cultures have respect truthfully into their own culture, because they still don't hold those foundational building blocks.
Yeah, I think everyone has, within their own culture something to work out, and I think that's probably where some of them kind of break up. It's like you'll have a group of people who may disagree with one part of the culture, who may branch out to go and do something else, under the same umbrella as that. While we have so many different denominations of Christianity, for example. I think that does happen. I'm going to bring back in 804. I think they're still there. 804, are you still there?
Hello?
Greetings, yes. I was just trying to bring you back into the conversation. Yes. I think it was on my end, actually. I had to change my audio, change my headset. So perhaps that was the problem. I do apologize for that.
No, it's all good. My only point, I too agree with pretty much everything that's been said as well. What I was saying initially, I wasn't talking about speaking different languages. What I was saying is based on our understanding of the language that we're using, and based on the cues that we've been given, like we're conditioned to see, we see each other. That part of it, or the way that we might dress. Like I think it's Brother Byron said something about you can't tell the difference anymore based on certain social cues. Well, that's language, right? That's a part of a certain language. There's certain standards that we used to have that we no longer have, just in how we dress or how we comport ourselves, how a wise man or an older man is supposed to behave versus a young man. Well, now there isn't any distinction or differentiation between an old man and a young man. And I was saying that the words that we've been given, like the Bible, how many people have actually, translated the Bible from Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek back into English? But we'll have these intense arguments about the Bible, and we haven't necessarily dug into it. I think you made the point that most people are Christian, who say they're Christians, aren't really Christians because they haven't really gotten into it enough to be able to call themselves a Christian. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And I think we as people, black people, African people, and I don't want to say African just because I feel like there's a portion of us that have gotten it together or have kept things in place, whereas there is a group of us who are trying to get back to that. But black people in America or in the Americas, and some even in Africa, they are, because they've kind of like walked away from a lot of things themselves, and this is where it does get into the language. They might speak English or French or Spanish or whatever. They've been given that language and they haven't necessarily researched it enough to understand what is proper etiquette. So when they do address Chief or they do address you on the show, they might come off and sound a certain way, but they don't know that they're sounding that way because they really don't know what they're saying to begin with. They don't know how it sounds. And I think that's where, for me, I think that's one of the places where we fall short. Also, in that there's a certain level of comprehension that we miss out on because we haven't researched certain words. That's one of the reasons why I think Chief Yuya always tries to explain where the origin of a certain word comes from, because we're kind of modeling reality based on the words that we're using. But black people aren't necessarily modeling reality off of the words that they're using. Sometimes we do in hip hop, but outside of that, we're not doing that. So I think that's one of the reasons why we fall short and why it's hard to explain ancestor worship if one person believes worship is only for X, Y, and Z when the original intent of the word wasn't that. You see what I mean? Or it only means Jesus. It could be for that. And for them, it's like, oh, worship. You can't worship anything outside of whatever deity. But but the original intent might not have been for deity only. It might not have been reserved. For deity only. It might have been something that could have been given to other things. And so therefore the conversation itself, in terms of us trying to communicate to them what we're about, they can't, because they haven't done enough research on the language themselves, or they can't hear it, if that makes any sense. They go off of how they feel it. It means. It becomes a connotation. And so therefore we can't really have a conversation, and so we bump heads.
That's true. Very, very, very true.
Yeah, that was can I jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, that was kind of the example of the first caller. And that's what I kind of heard from the first caller, is that when he wasn't able to feel like he was getting his opinion across, he literally just kind of gave up on arguing. And Kim stood firm on what she was saying, and as soon as that wasn't budging a little bit, he kind of cut off early on this conversation. I don't know whether it was due to time or whether it's just way he kind of just went away with the conversation. But that shows like how we relate to people, relate to each other. Is that we don't have to agree with each other completely, but we can still have that same conversation, continue to build on the conversation, and maybe make you see something that you didn't see, or make me see something that I didn't see. So it's actually that give and take, and a lot of people want to give, and think that everything that they're giving is nutritious, but they might be giving us GMO chicken, GMO orange with no seeds. So we're looking at. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do is just have respect, have the openness to give and receive the information that's in front of you. So
yeah. I think actually that caller just raised their hand again. I'm gonna bring them back in. 269.
Yeah, please. How you doing? I heard the brother bring my name up. Yeah, now I can be specific why I kind of got off the phone because we were entering into a circular type conversation, which I really didn't see where it could benefit neither one of us or the listeners. So, we were going in a circle. Yeah.
Okay, well, I wasn't trying to point the finger and blame you for something. I didn't know exactly, but thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you were.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation, caller? Okay, I think they may have.
Oh, me? Yeah. Well, I've still been listening. Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm kind of hearing, I keep hearing you refer to culture, so I did do a little, just very quickly to see what the definition was. And kind of what you're describing, it's almost like organizational ethics, right? Whereas
that's part of it.
Right. So if you have a lot of organizations, they each have their own ethics, but clearly we haven't figured out if your organizational ethics, mesh with Hebrew Israelites' organizational methods, because again, what you're talking about is the unification factor. So you have a lot of organizations with values, morals. So that's why I asked the question. Well, what's the end game? Because you made the statement that we don't want, culture. You made the statement. So if you're starting from that perspective, then what is the purpose of the conversation?
Well, I wasn't saying that. I was saying that I think that for the most part, people that behave a certain way or behave that way don't want culture, because I think we're in a position now where we can choose to be whatever it is we want to be. If I approached a Hebrew Israelite or even you, I would not instantly start to curse you out. Like the
right.
example that I used, Anwar's on the phone. We were discussing an issue that he was having, within his family, and he was explaining to get some insight on, what he should do or some solutions. And the woman's response under the comments, she just instantly went in and started calling them names, cursed them out, just instantly. And so I think what I'm saying is like, what is it with some people? Like, do I have to put on a costume? Do I have to wear a head wrap? Do I have to wear, do I have to dress like a Hasidic Jew? Why do I have to do those type things for you to have just some basic decency when speaking or talking to someone? Like, what is it in you that makes you feel so comfortable or so validated in saying and say, you know what, it's okay for me to curse this man out?
Well, I don't even know. I see the example you're saying, but very quickly, bro. Very quickly. See, let's say you had 10 individuals, and out of the 10, only one cursed you out. Then you wouldn't approach that as a cultural problem. Let's say you had 3 out of 10 interactions, and 3 of them cussed you out. Well, you may want to look at it a little deeper. So if you and how you look at it a little deeper. That's what I'm saying. That's what I say. I'm just going off the examples that you're using.
Can I add on to that real quick? Can I add on to that?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, let's say if we had that 1 out of 10, it's still a cultural problem because there's the 9 that did respond correctly didn't check the 1, and if we had a 3-on-3, it's a definite cultural response. So just to answer what you were saying about the end game. The end game is unification, and it doesn't matter what sect of culture that we deal with. These are basic civil principles that we should already have inside of us before we even start stepping out into the world. And that's the biggest issue that's happening in our community, is that this is just simple ethics, like thank you, you're welcome, greetings, how are you doing, good rising. Certain just life-changing words that just make people smile or give people better energy or balanced energy in the day. And it shouldn't be, this part really shouldn't be that hard. And I just don't, I still don't understand. I don't get it to this day either. Is that, even when you're going to a club or going to atmosphere when we have all our people in, the first thing people are doing is judging you or giving you some kind of sour look. And that's the problem that we have internally. Before we start building whatever community that we're building, we should have that should be checked at the door. That should be a morning ritual that we do to ourselves and say that we love each other, love ourselves, and love each other. And it's simple words.
Yeah, and my point was that basic religion gives you that. Before you get all into the history of religion, what it did to the people, all that kind of stuff, the basics, the fundamentals of religion give you that.
Correct.
I'll give you another example.
Go ahead.
Have you ever been in a crowd, noticed like when you pass as a black person, if you've ever passed an Asian person, like an Asian child, or even the adults don't do it as much, but definitely the children do. When you pass by them or if you're in front of them, it's like they don't even see you. You don't even exist to them. They look straight through you. In their culture, it is something that those adults are teaching them, that they are passing down to say, you know what, when you see this group of people, you pretend you don't speak to them, you don't say anything to them, you act like they're not even there. They don't speak to you, they don't greet you, they don't interact with you, nothing, unless you're going into their place of business or something, and they still treat you a certain way.
Yeah, and that's what I say, without going into the circuit argument again, what I was saying when the brother asked to interject is that the example you used was somebody being rude to someone else. Now, what my statement was is that if you have a culture where you notice a pattern of disrespect, then, that's something you need to deal with. But the statement was, if you see 9 people respecting each other and 1 disrespecting, I don't know that you have a conversation about not having a culture of respect. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have a conversation about we don't have a culture of respect because you saw 1 or 2 persons disrespecting another person. So that's why I say we have to be specific when we're talking about what are we calling culture, or what are we saying the problems are.
Okay. And I totally agree with you. I understand what you're saying. Like if it's a 1 in a million chance, you know what I mean? Then you can't really diagnose it as something.
Right.
But I'm saying this is a common thing.
Because you out all the time. I'm not getting cussed out all the time.
Let's say it like this. 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 Holistically, we're talking about every culture across the world. Everybody. White, whatever, name them all. Okay? The basic ground of that would be common courtesy.
Right.
That's it. After that has been achieved and accomplished, and proper language, proper religious concept, proper cultural concepts can be established on that foundation. And that's why I kind of go back into saying the 14 keys breaks that down. It may be there's a African Nguzo Saba, and there's a Kemetic principles of Mahat. But the point is that these commonalities are things that everyone should have. And we wouldn't have, and honestly, if everyone across the board had these basic structures and principles, we wouldn't have to have worries about that the 9 respectful of 1, because the 9 would have to tell the 1, blah 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 blah. You're out of line, and they would understand that they're out of line. So it's not.
Could I speak for a moment, please?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Byron.
Yeah, I think I've been listening to the conversation since I muted my mic, but I just wanted to say that a key point that I don't think should be overlooked, it was that in the exchange that we are talking about, there were around 10 comments. 10 comments, 1 was disrespectful, and the 10 who had been respectful found it acceptable to the degree where there was no challenge. Now, if we're looking at this as a wider African American or Western black issue, we find that our behaviors, our standards of behavior and interaction are going down decade after decade, and there's a significant silent majority that if they don't find it acceptable, they don't overtly say it's unacceptable, and therefore by being silent give permission for that bad behavior to continue, and their silence endorses that behavior. So I think it's not just a case of singling out the one person that wrote those comments, but what is the community response to that standard of behavior? Where is our plumb line in terms of this is how far the water can sink and we ain't going below that? Sometimes we allow our behavior to sink below the water and we find it acceptable by our silence. And even and I don't want to hear people, if people say they don't find it acceptable and they remain silent, I will challenge them, because I said, where is your energy to respond to that bad behavior? By being silent, we're saying it's acceptable.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. And we talked about that. I think Chief brought that up in the show. It was like, especially with this show, we know that Anu is a culture, and that Chief has built and is building a community of people. And so when someone leaves a comment like that, why do, like, some of the people that are a part of this community or are a part of this culture, or say they support it and say they, thank Chief for everything they've done, do they not take it upon themselves to go back and correct the person that may have said something disrespectful? So, we've talked about that before, and I totally agree with you, Byron. Yeah.
Hello? Yes, for sure.
Yes. I'm going to bring in another caller. You can go ahead and say what you need to say, 269, but 864 has had their hand up for a while, so I'm just going to bring them in real quick. And I think Serene called back in. 864? That's what he makes y'all do it? Yeah, that's what I had the idea. Okay, they got too much going on back there. Okay, Serene, you're back in too. Okay, go ahead, 269.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, sometimes with the comments on the videos too, sometimes I don't know how to put this other than, to initiate a conversation, even to check some people, like I don't even know how I even think about this per se, if I'm thinking about it correctly. But I think I've initiated conversations or tried to check people in terms of how they were addressing the video. Some of the comments aren't even about the video at all. Some people haven't even watched the video.
That's true.
I've seen, I think just recently, I think it was Men for Respect or something. What was it? Men Need Respect. One of those videos, it seemed like the brother eventually started to try and holler at the sister that he was arguing with.
Yeah.
Like, and I just kept getting these emails on my phone. I'm like, man, how do I get out of this thing?
Right.
So it becomes, I don't think it's that people don't want to step in and say something when there is a level of disrespect. But the people themselves don't see it as disrespect, number one. And number two, they just go on and on and on, and you can't get out of it. They may even stop addressing you. I think in the conversation that I was, I guess, in, the brother said, you know what, I agree to disagree or something like that. Good day, sir. And he addressed me respectfully and kind of like walked out. I think there was a sister that began to talk to him again that he was talking to initially, and then they kept going back and forth. He asked her to, to let's meet up. So it was.
I saw it.
You saw that? Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. So when I at that point, I felt like I needed a shower. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But
you know what? I saw that, and you know why we left it there? It's just we left it there as an example of some of the stupidity to show to show what we're talking about. Because one of the people that was involved in that conversation is the person that we're talking about that started the whole disrespectful comment. And so, we do realize that there are some people who come on and do things and say things just to get attention or to be like a little YouTube star or something like that, you know what I mean, to get attention. We do realize that. But at the same time, I think that, like Brother Byron said, even if we don't say anything, and I don't have to keep going back and forth with the person, like you can say what you're going to say and be done, but just not saying anything makes people feel comfortable to do that over here. Like, just like the example I used with the Nation of Islam, you already know not to get in the face of one of those brothers, of FOI or anybody. You know what I mean? It's like, you know that. So you're not even going to try to attempt. And the reason why you know that is because they have a track record of, this is how we deal with people like you. This is how we deal with situations like that. So that has to, like Byron said, like if you don't say anything, it continues to go on. So when somebody says something out of pocket, like I think it is upon the people in the community or those other 9 people that you spoke about to say something to the one, be like, look, you can't do that over here.
Right. And just to go back to the original example that I gave about language, with the FOI, and then I'm gonna let it go. With the FOI, that example that you just gave about the FOI, that example speaks. In and of itself, it's a language, and that's what I mean about us in general as a group, as a collective. We don't have our own sort of like standards, or there's no way of being that we each understand to that level anyway, in terms of how to interact with each other than what we've seen maybe in the movies, or I don't know what we've gotten in now, because I remember when not too long ago, if I saw another black person, we was like giving each other the thumbs up, in a crowd of white folks. That doesn't happen anymore at all. So
yeah.
I mean, that disappeared in like 20 years. I'm only 36 years old. So I remember that, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let me try to bring in, I think this is 864. Let me see if they muted some of the noise. 864? 864. Yeah, okay. We're going to leave them. I'm going to bring Tareem. I think this is Tareem. 904?
Yes, this is me, Sister Kim. I had got off the call, but I heard what y'all were saying and everything, and I was joking around with y'all when y'all was talking about, it being a common thing, with all the black Americans that's, happening. Like, if I went up to this this guy and asked for directions, you know, and the first thing he said to me was, "What the F you talking to me for?" You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know, and I was like, dang, I was just trying to figure out, you know, how to get from here to here, you know, and
exactly.
he just
That's the
off.
stuff
So
I'm talking about.
Right. So it's like my question is, you know, how do you actually cure, like I said before in the beginning, how do you cure somebody who don't want the medicine, who rejects the medicine? Like, you just have to stay away from them and go and find other people who are looking diligently for that cure. You can't make somebody take something that they keep on, you know, rejecting you for it. You know, like, get away from me, get out my face.
Right. Let me throw something in there. This 269. So let me ask your brother, did you ask the next person for directions?
I did ask the next person for directions. Yes, sir.
See, I'm saying, you know, that person may have been having a bad day. I mean, you just don't know. You know, we all have bad days. I mean, you just don't know what still,
even if you have, but brother, it's no excuse though. Like, if I'm having a bad day and you come up to me and you don't know me from sugar to sand, and you come up to me and say, "Peace, brother, how you doing? I'm lost, man. Can you?" And I say, "Man, get the hell out my face. What are you talking to me for?"
I guess the point that I'm making is, bro, I don't know that if you went up to, but I'm saying, let me ask you this,
even
brother.
Though if you went up even though I had a bad day, that has nothing to do with you, brother. So what I'm getting ready to say though, bro, if you went up to 5 different brothers and asked for directions, do you think all 5 of them would have responded that way? It don't matter, but most of them will.
See, that's what I'm saying.
In the hood. Yeah, most of them will. If you go in the hood, in the urban parts, especially in New York and New Jersey, people don't talk to each other like that. They don't communicate with each other like that. Yeah. For real, brother. Like, it's not like what you think. Like, people will go off and cuss you out for saying greetings to them. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Hey, New York people run the light before it's even green, so that's a different breed of people altogether.
Yeah, man, you know. But that culture is still in us, though. That Willie Lynch trip to keep us divided and divisive against each other is still in us. And what we're trying to figure out is, what's the steps? Like, what's the ways for us to come together as a conglomerate and not look at each other automatically upon seeing the melanated brother or the melanated sister. You automatically look at them in a demeaning, depreciating type of way without even knowing or hearing anything from them.
Right.
It's almost automatic.
Just an initial gut feeling. Like, you are just turned off and just pissed off when you just see another black person. Like, and maybe not even to that extent. It's just that you don't see, when you look at them, you don't like them. Just off the top. Like, so whatever it is they're about to say to you or whatever, you feel like I can use any type of language. I can demean this person. I can say anything crazy that comes out of my head to this person because respect means to see the source or to see God in a person. So it's like, I don't see none of that in you. So I can come at you any kind of way.
Remind me not to visit the cities that y'all live in.
Oh, shoot, hey. Well, you better stay in the countryside because that's in every urban city.
I'm in the country. So, I mean, it's here too.
Oh, well, you know what I mean? There's nowhere it's global.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something she said. You know, it used to be like you would expect those things in like New York, LA, Chicago, New Jersey, you know, but they were like, you know, you go down south, people are different. Nah, they the same way now. It's bad. It's just as bad here.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out, man.
Let me jump in real quick. You guys are cracking me up. Number one, that's hilarious. But just to get on another perspective of it, think about how this affects us commerce-wise, dealing with our own economies. Mm-hmm. Think about it. If I was trying to sell, some CDs, and when somebody comes up to me and I say, "Yo, man, why the hell are you talking to me? You think I'm ever going to sell that CD?" You know what I'm saying? So I think it's something that we need to work all around the board, man. Just to kind of throw that in, man. That our economy is based off in that, and
I feel you where you're coming from. I feel you on that too, War. You know, but that's coming from a dynamic of if you trying to sell CDs, you trying to earn somebody's, you know, trust and rapport to get their money, you know, so you can, you know, perpetuate yourself. What me and Sister Kim talking about is just a simple hello, like, hey, brother, how you doing? We don't want nothing from you. We don't, you know, we ain't trying to scheme or take nothing from you. It's just a simple, how you doing, sir? Or how you doing, sister? You know, and then they look at you when girls, when you see something, and I know you've experienced it, brother.
I have.
And the 260, what you say, 269? I don't know your name, you know, but I know you've experienced walking up on a pretty, you know, melanated sister, and she turned around, and as soon as you say, you know, excuse me, sister, how you doing? And she automatically, as soon as she turned around, she look at you with contempt. She look at you like, you know, what do you want? What are you here for?
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I know Chief shared a story once where it was just something that simple, where he saw a woman, and it was a black lady, that he thought he knew, and that he hadn't seen maybe like in 10, 15 years or something like that. He was like, gosh, that really looks like her. Like, I want to ask if that's her, but knowing how people are nowadays, like what we're talking about, he was kind of apprehensive in approaching her. But, you know, after a few stops, he was like, okay, I'm going to wait and see if she gets off at this stop. I'm going to wait and see, because they were on the train. I'm going to wait and see if she gets off, because he remembered, like, where this person lived. And he's like, okay, if that happens, then maybe this is that person. I'll go ahead and ask. But just to think, like, all he had to go through just leading up to even feeling comfortable, feeling like dealing with this person just to ask, shows you the level of deterioration that we've come to when it comes to just approaching people. And so finally, when he did finally say, you know what, I'm going to ask and see if this is this person. And he stopped her and said, excuse me, or whatever. The woman pulled out a blade on him. Just off the top. It's broad daylight. It's not like it's 3, 4 a.m. in the morning in a dark alley somewhere. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. She just pulls out a blade and starts cursing him out. You know what I mean? He's like, well, this is ridiculous.
And that's what, right, you know, and see, and we can't say, okay, she was just having a bad day. Because she could have hurt Chief. You know what I'm saying? So that justifies her stabbing this man or whatever because she had a bad day. You know,
and she used the word, I got something for brothers like you or for ends like you. I got something for y'all, you know. And it's just like, what? You don't even, I didn't even say anything to you yet. And even the approach was calm and nice. And I even get that here in the South. It's like if I go somewhere or if I'm shopping or whatever and I say thank you or excuse me, or if I speak to somebody politely, every single time, you know what I get back? Where are you from? You from here? Because it is so uncommon.
Negroes don't be polite around here.
Right. I get it every single time. It never fails. Where are you from? You know, and even just in asking me where I'm from, it sounds, you know, I can hear the disrespect in their tone, but I know that they really are wondering. Like, just this past weekend, I was somewhere picking up some food, and this older lady, she was there with her children, and she was probably like in her 50s. And that I just walked in, and I'm just waiting like she is, and she spoke to me, and I spoke back, And she sat there and she kind of, gave me the up down. You know how somebody looks you up and down? And I was just thinking to myself, this is so ridiculous. But she gave me the up down, and then she says, where are you from?
Yeah.
And I just said,
it happens, man. I'm talking about it is commonplace, man.
This is really a 50-some-year-old woman. We're not talking about a young woman, I said, I'm from here. She said, really?
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. And I'm just like, what in the world? So these are the things I'm talking about. So to say that it's like some type of anomaly that doesn't happen, no, this is commonplace now.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Like, I mean, another example, you can, if you come on the flip side of that, if I went in the store and I was, saying something to this young lady who I thought looked nice or whatever, and I was like, how you doing? Let me introduce myself to you. And then she was like, where you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Georgia. She was like, oh, because in words like that don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Always, so we have to try to figure out a way to change the climate of the culture. You know what I'm saying? And I've been brainstorming a couple of ways, but I don't think it'll really actually pop off like how my mind be. But I can think of a couple of things that could happen. But it's just
Name a few.
I think it's wish we can. Huh?
Name a few, Tori.
Well, I mean, for example, and this just me, I think that if, all black women as a whole came together and said, okay, we're going to stop or we're going to not, give sex to, all the, like unconscious or all the little thug or just people who don't have knowledge of, self and culture, we're going to cut that out completely. I think that'll help. You know what I'm saying? That'll make a man want to really, get on his feet and do what he's supposed to do as a man.
But what about like the brothers that are kind of going the other direction and saying, if the black woman ain't going to do this, I'm going to go to the white woman?
Well, I mean, if they talking about if the black woman ain't gonna do this, I'm gonna go to the white woman. Then they not seeing the picture that I'm seeing. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking about as far as like, I mean, if you just want to go nab a white woman or whatnot, then that's on you. But I'm just saying, like, as women as a whole, if they say, okay, all these wannabe, thugs and dope boys and drug street hood Negroes, I guess, we gonna fast from them or sacrifice, like we're gonna just stay away from that. Stay away from that type of person.
I like that.
I promise you, every type of conversation, when the woman asks, are you conscious? And the dude be like, conscious? What that mean? And then she just, never mind. Oh, have a good day, sir. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds good.
That's what I'm saying.
When you can't even get people to greet you nicely or to respond to you, like to try to get a whole group of people from one ethnic group to say no to sex. Like, you pushing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I didn't say it. And see, look, this the thing. Here's the strategic piece that I spoke. I didn't say no to sex. I just said say no to the scum, to the thugs and the street hood, unconscious, the people who are not about building a nation. That's what I'm saying. That'll help men. That'll help street dudes get on board with that. They'll have to change the game up if their women are not checking for them, no matter how much money or whatever they making, and they got this code. All of a sudden, the women got this code. Even the little thought pockets and the hood rats in the street. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, there's some thought pockets out there, man. Please believe me.
Microwave is minute 45.
You did? I'm telling you. There's some thought pockets. I'm telling you, there's some out there. And I'm talking about, man, if they could all get on code and just be like, okay, we're not going to support this pushing these poisons into our communities again like that. I think that would switch the game up.
Hey, bro. Hey. It's 269. Hey, it's gonna be difficult to get to that thought if the sister saying that the first thing a sister want to do when she sees another sister is scratch her eyes out. So it's gonna be hard to
exactly.
That's why I preface. Hold on. That's why I preface my comments with, the little wishful thinking thing, because I know it's, almost impossible, but that would work, though. I think it would work. You know?
If they go through, even Steve Harvey. We're going to let you hold that one, Terrain. You know what? That's so far out there. It's like, we're just going to let you have it.
It could be like, it could all be so simple, man, like, but it's so hard. Because it's like you could just.
I'm gonna say this because, it really is not easy to nation build. I mean, people, you can say that it's easy to nation build, and that's basically what we're talking about ultimately. We're talking about nation building, and that's not an easy task. And particularly when I go back to my earlier comment, sister, when you don't control the institutions that shape the personality and the character of your youth, then it's certainly going to be the hard to nation build when you're not determining what type of personality and character children develop at a young age. And so now, you got all of these adults with all of these addictions and fixations and personality glitches, and you're trying, we're trying to take a shortcut to nation building.
Right.
It's not going. You can't do it.
That leads into what I was trying to say is that our biggest thing right now is social media. What we've seen on TV, what we're seeing in the streets, and by setting examples of these relationships and the way our ethics and our etiquette is through our music, through our arts, through our communications, through media. That's the way we're gonna really make a real change. I think that's the best thing that we do. If we can start putting down more videos, more media-based things, music, arts that are corresponding into better ethics and etiquette, then I think that would be just like the main structure.
I agree with that. But the only issue I have with it is the government control all the media. Well, not all the media, but most of the media and things like that. I got a question. Okay, black people, and when I speak about us, I'm talking about, mostly the people who are in the streets, in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Across the board, we have created a language within a language. You know what I'm saying? Like we could, speak certain words and we know what it means, but everybody outside of, street culture or whatever don't know what the words mean. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Like for example, when Ply said, I ran off on the plug twice. You know what I'm saying? Most people outside of, African American culture don't know what that means, but and that's what I'm speaking about. How did that happen and it spread all throughout America, like throughout, the black communities of America. And I'm talking about the Ebonics, where we can, you know what I'm saying, where we can, we create a language within a language, and it's not formal, like, but it's just a rhythm. It's a rhythm that you get.
And I think that creativity is 269.
We didn't need institutions. All I was saying was we didn't need institutions for that.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? But automatically we can get on code.
But that's a good point. But when we let's get into nation building with language. So let's go specifically towards, let's say, economics. Now, the type of language or the creativity that you see in hip hop, how does that translate into me and you owning a bank and us being able to speak a language to where we can get enough brothers and sisters to organize their funds? So just like the language when during the slave revolts and slave trade, they were able to take that language and code it to get free. So just saying that we can be creative in our art forms in hip hop, but how does that translate into education, to developing character and personality, starting banks, making more children become engineers, doctors, lawyers?
I mean,
see,
it can. It can translate.
If it does not do that, then I don't know if you is that some type of, do you categorize that as creative art? Because again, what those things are supposed to do, like the brother just said, your art, your music is supposed to solve problems and develop character and culture. If it doesn't do that, is it really called art?
Well, not according to the system of white supremacy. They control the hip hop now. And see, in hip hop before, that's what it was. It was art and someone's, you know what I'm saying, flow from the mind from, over a rhythmic beat. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was. But now it's been co-opted so it would keep us thinking a certain way. That's why they only talk about the same 5 or 6 things in hip hop. That's it. You got all these different rappers, different personalities, different mindsets from all over the United States, but all of them are talking about or trying to make a catchy, lyric over a tight beat, and it all got to do with just basically money, sex, you know what I'm saying, and parties,
right.
And drugs. It's basically like six or 7 things. That's because it's been co-opted to be like that. People can't be themselves like they want to because they're not going to put that in hip-hop. They're not going to celebrate that or push that.
With what you guys just stated, this is where I tend to disagree because this is where I don't believe in integration. The reason why is because, number one, if we're sitting here thinking that the government owns some kind of music or whatever, that means that's not ours. We shouldn't even try to integrate ourselves inside of that. If that's the case, I don't participate. When we start talking about our community and the culture, I'm going to make music and I'm going to do things that are going to be reflective to that culture and my culture. So that's where I just don't agree with integration of anything. If I'm hearing something coming out of what we call the government or white media, I already know to take that as a grain of salt and just hear what they're saying. But I'm not going to. If it doesn't follow inside of my principles, I'm not going to push that out.
Yeah.
Let me interject and just say this because we have gone over our time limit for today.
Oh man!
But I just wanted to say the point I wanted to make was that I think the underlying solution to all of this is to have a culture. And so, just like the meme that I made is like I was, asking or making a statement just to, get your attention to say, should people without a culture be respected? And again, like I said, the reason for my saying that is because people that don't have a culture do not have a set of a code or a set of morals or whatever. It's just like I said, it's a wild animal. It's a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get from them. You have no idea. You can even look at this as, people that breed animals or that breed dogs or something. When they make a certain breed of dogs, they breed it for a specific purpose, just like they did us. But you'll notice, like, the desire or the want for, like, say, like a, what we would call a mutt. No one wants that dog. And the reason why is because the behavior and everything or whatever about that dog's makeup is so unpredictable. What is this thing supposed to do? I don't know what this thing is going to do. I know a Doberman Pinscher does this. I know this type of dog is known to behave this way, just like we do with people. We know the Nation of Islam is this. I know Mormons are this. I know Sunni Muslims are like this. I know this group of people are like that. You know what I mean? But when you're dealing with a person that has no culture whatsoever, you don't know what you're going to get. And so just like Anwar said, it sounds harsh to say, I'm just not going to deal with you. But that's really what it comes down to. I'm just not going to deal with you because if you come to me once, like the example I used of the lady that kind of went off on Chief, is like, okay, he responded to her respectfully because that's the position he comes from, but he's not going to allow himself to be disrespected by anybody at all. So after I came at you once and tried to engage, and you came back at me and showed me that you couldn't, you're a wild animal or whatever, whatever it is, you know what? Disengage. I got to go. You can't come over here with that. And so, again, it just kind of goes back to, go ahead.
That's how I felt with that Lola comment. And when she responded, I wasn't sure how to respond to it, but I could see the love in it, in the conversation, on the comment, but I didn't know how to respond to it. And it's funny that you just said that. That's a good point.
Yeah, like, I can't respond to that. Like, no, I'm just not, I'm not going to lower my standards to deal with it. Tried, okay, I'm done. So it almost boils down to that. But like I said, I think nowadays it's like not an excuse to say, well, because of Will Lynch, because of this, because of that. Like, we got too much information now. I can research Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Shintoism, Rastafarianism, anything, to the hilt and figure out everything about it. And if that's the communities that I choose to reside in or the culture that I choose for myself, I'm free to do it.
That's why I don't disagree with what Tareem said about the government controlling our media at this point. There's too many opportunities on the internet right now for just to be internet, even on down to our cell phones, that we can be in communication with our community. And I don't agree with that. I think it's just we have to get ourselves out of the scope of somebody else's binoculars, somebody else's vision, and start thinking about what's in our community's vision and what's in our our greater purpose.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? I agree with you too. But I do know that the government does control how hip-hop and how the media is running right now. So that's what mostly our community is paying attention to. So we're building now, and hopefully more people start becoming drawn towards us, to where our culture will be bigger than hip hop and everything like that. But I know they control the minds. They control the minds through hip hop and through media. And that's
kind of the reason why I stay away from their radio and their TV, You know, I can't even tell you about one episode of Empire. I can't tell you about none of that stuff.
Before we go, run me your number real quick.
You know what? Hold on, Anwar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you find them on YouTube? I mean, not YouTube, Facebook.
Facebook.
Okay,
what's your Facebook?
Because he's giving that number out a bunch of times. I don't want a bunch of people like blowing his phone up, going off or something.
Okay, right. I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
But
what I'll do under the post that Kim put up for this show, I'll put a post same piece, and you just click on that, and we'll link up.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to. We've gone way over the time for today.
And I think.
Yeah. I thank everybody for calling in and sharing your comments. And we'll come back on Thursday. And just to remind you all, while everybody's still looking for solutions, one has already been cut out for us. You got, like Anwar said, you got the 14 keys. We have I Knew. If you want to learn more about it, to be a part of it, you can go to inewlifeglobal.org, and you can sign up there to be a part of the ministry. There's a men's group that's going to meet on Sunday, conference call, if you want to be a part of that, to understand what the men's role is in our new culture, and to share and be a part of that support group. Make sure you sign up first at inewlifeglobal.org, or you can send an email into questions@iNewNation, and I can forward it to the appropriate place. As well as if there are any women on the call that would like to be a part of the women's call that we have every Monday, same thing, inewlifeglobal.org. Make sure you let us know what you want to be a part of or what you want to contribute, and we'll get you in on that. And so with that, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the videos, and leave a comment. As dangerous as that may be, leave a comment. But thank you all for participating, and we'll be back on Thursday at the same time. Enjoy your day. Peace.
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 When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can seem intense. Like breakup R&B intense.
I thought you said you loved the sweater that I got you. If you didn't, you could have told me.
Geico makes it easy. Just go to Geico.com anytime to update or check your policy without all the extra drama.
I even had a gift receipt.
Showing up unannounced at your ex-in-laws for the holidays? Bad idea. Giving your true love 7 live swans of swimming? Bad idea. Ignoring the expiration date on your eggnog? Bad idea. Getting a Plus membership from Sam's Club and saving more than $300? Yay! Good idea. Join today and get a free year of LifeLock identity protection, a $10 gift card just for signing up, and much more. But this won't last long, so join Sam's Club as a Plus member and start saving. See Club for details.